Hello everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of the Mild Rumpus. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing all of the books I read during the month of January. I have to say, looking at my stack of books over here, 2004 started off strong. There's a good mixture of genres. We've got fiction, nonfiction, essays, a good mixture of authors that I've read before, and a few new ones. So let's dig in. The first book I read in January was Ali Smith's Winter. This is the second book in her seasonal quartet. The first one is Autumn, which I started last year. When you're reading the beginning of both of these books, you're going to be like, what's happening? What's going on? I'm lost. The first book, Autumn, jumps around in time. The book focuses on the relationship between Elizabeth and Daniel. Daniel is currently living in a nursing home. Elizabeth is coming to visit him. They first met when she was a really young girl. Her mother was suspicious of their relationship given his age. It's also notable because it's the first book that ever talked about Brexit. The second book, Winter, focuses on completely different characters. The main character in Winter is a man by the name of Art. He's going home for the holidays in Cornwall, but his life is unraveling. He's broken up with his girlfriend, his sister is fighting with them and trolling him and writing crazy things on Twitter to try to get him canceled. Art decides to hire someone to pose as his girlfriend. Her name is Lux, and she winds up being one of the more interesting characters in the novel. Autumn talked about Brexit. This one touches on the presidential election. You know that one, number 45. The next book I read was by Philip Pullman, who's most known for his Dark Materials series. It's a title that certainly grabs your attention. The Good Man Jesus and the Scoundrel Christ. There's a video online of someone confronting Pullman about the title of the book, saying, look, it's extremely disrespectful and insulting for you to refer to Christ as a scoundrel. And he was completely unapologetic. He was like, you don't have to buy it, you don't have to read it, you don't have to like it, but I have the right to write it and publish it. He says, the story I tell comes out of the tension within the dual nature of Jesus Christ, but what I do with it is my responsibility alone. Parts of it read like a novel, parts like a history, and parts like a fairy tale. I wanted it to be like that because it is, among other things, a story about how stories become stories. This book is basically Pullman's reimagining of the story of Christ. In his reimagining, Jesus had a brother by the name of Christ. And Christ is always following Jesus around. He's watching him grow up. He's watching him perform the miracles. If you've ever read the book or have seen the movie of The Last Temptation of Christ, it's very similar. And Pullman is known as a very outspoken atheist, which made me question, why write the book in the first place? There's another character in the book only known as the Stranger, which as you're reading the book, you're questioning, is it an angel? Is it the devil? What's up with this dude? Through the conversations between the Stranger and Christ, Pullman poses questions about organized religion, and for me, that was the biggest takeaway from the book. But overall, I just kept asking myself, who is this book written for besides Philip Pullman? After reading those two books, I needed to cleanse the palate, so I went with Happy Go Lucky by David Sedaris. I don't think I need to tell you about David Sedaris. He's one of the most popular authors out there. Just like Ali Smith's books, Happy Go Lucky feels very much of its time. He talks about the pandemic, Black Lives Matter protests, the death of his father, his relationship with Amy Sedaris, who I love. Like all of his books, I found this one really funny, entertaining, irreverent. However, it was a little melancholy. It was bittersweet. It got sad sometimes. And reading the book, it brought back memories of going through the pandemic. It's kind of amazing how quickly your brain blocks those things or compartmentalizes, or maybe that's just me. Oh, and this copy is signed. Yay! The next two books are by the same author, Cormac McCarthy, who wrote one of my all-time favorite books, The Road. Now, while I love The Road, I saw that the McCarthy stands were debating online what his best novel was, and it seemed to be between The Road and this book, which is Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian is historical fiction. It follows a young man from Tennessee known only as the Kid. Through a series of events, he joins up with a group of scalp hunters called the Glanton Gang, who actually existed. This is an extremely brutal and violent book. Page after page after page, there's just descriptions of these horrible acts of violence, and after a while you become numb to it, which I think is sort of the point. If there's one thing McCarthy can do, it is to create a villain you will never forget. In this case, it's Judge Holden, who's this highly educated man. He's enormous and big, and he has no hair on his body. And the ending. The ending. If you know, you know. And I hear that they're working on a film adaptation, but I have no idea how you would ever put this on the big screen, nor should you. But as a book, it's one that will certainly stay with you for a long time. The next book was adapted for the big screen, and it won 4 Academy Awards, so what do I know? No Country for Old Men. This book was a banger. It was a page-turner. I could not put it down. One possible explanation as to why this is such a page-turner is McCarthy actually wrote it as a screenplay first. Like Blood Meridian, the book is set on the border between the US and Mexico. A man by the name of Moss comes upon a drug deal gone wrong. He finds a briefcase of money and he decides to take it home with him, which was a huge mistake. There's a sheriff by the name of Bell who's trying to find Moss before the cartel does. And once again, McCarthy creates a villain for all time. This is a book that I would definitely recommend you read. It came very close to being a 5-star for me. This next book found me at a little free library, A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. I was unfamiliar with this fantasy series, even though I own the Studio Ghibli film that they did a few years back, and I apparently have forgotten. Now I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but it was the beautiful artwork that drew me to this book. Earthsea is a fantasy series that's geared to younger audiences, but what I like about it is, much like Philip Pullman, Le Guin doesn't dumb anything down. She doesn't talk down to her reader. This book is about a boy named Ged who is learning how to become a wizard. One day, Ged gets into an argument with another kid by the name of Jasper. It was basically a situation of like, my magic's better than yours. Nuh-uh. Uh-huh. Nuh-uh. Uh-huh. Prove it. And when he does, that's where the story really starts to unfold. I found this book to be an absolute delight to read, and it's a great alternative to anyone who is looking for a series about a boy becoming a wizard. Finding a copy of this next book proved to be quite a challenge. I had to go to 3 different bookstores. It's very, very popular right now. Poor Things by Alasdair Gray. This is a very unusual book. There's illustrations, journal entries, letters, historical notes. It's a book that leaves you questioning what was real and what was fictional. And it's the epitome of mansplaining. I've never seen a novel that has a framework like Poor Things. The closest maybe is House of Leaves, but House of Leaves takes it to a whole nother level. Poor Things does a lot of things. It pokes fun at the Victorian era. It reimagines the story of Frankenstein. It examines the same story through different perspectives, and it's told through the voice of an unreliable narrator. Overall, I felt like it was worth the hunt. It's a good, wacky book. It lags a little in the middle. If you do choose to read it, make sure you read those historical notes at the end. And the last book I read during the month of January, I don't have a physical copy of, but it was Chuck Palahniuk's Not Forever, But For Now. I don't really want to go into the plot of the book. I will say that it ends with an afterword by Chuck Palahniuk talking about the story, the symbolism throughout the book, and the meaning of it. To me, it was like Chuck Palahniuk does the story of the eye. I'm going to tell you what this book is really about. I'm going to explain the symbolism. Now you go back and read it. No thanks. Once was enough. And that is everything that I read in the month of January. The radiator's about to turn on and it's going to get super loud and mess up the audio. So let me just wrap this video up by saying, thank you so much, everyone who has watched the videos, given my channel a shout out, subscribed, liked, commented. I am shocked by the support of the BookTube community. I shouldn't be. I guess I underestimated you all, but everyone has been so generous and so kind, and I really, truly appreciate it. My next video will be looking at all of the books on the TBR for the month of February. That should go up next week, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, do all the things. Hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me what was your best and worst book that you read during the month of January. And until next time, I will talk to you soon. We still need to work on that catchphrase.